Good evening, parents and students. All I'm going to do right now is just go over some area and perimeter problems if you want to review for your test. First, what is perimeter? Perimeter is the distance around an object. As if you were going to put a fence around your house, you need to know the perimeter in order to buy wood. To find the perimeter, you add up all the sides. Kids, if your parents are sitting with you, you can go on and sing the perimeter song, which tells you both that it's the distance around an object. In order to find it, you add up all the sides. So let's look at a problem. If I have this figure right here, and I see that one side length is 5 feet. The other side length is 7 feet long. I have to look at this figure and see that this figure is a rectangle. What do I know about rectangles? I know that opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So this side is 5 feet. I also know that this side is 5 feet long. If I know that this side is 7 feet long, I know that the opposite side will be 7 feet long. Now I go back to my definition of a perimeter. Perimeter means you add up all the sides. I have 4 sides. I should be adding 4 numbers. That equation will look like this. 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 7. You can do 2 different strategies. You can decide I'm going to go on and add them up in order. 5 plus 7 is 12, and I recognize that 5 plus 7 over here is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24. Or I could chunk it to something I know. 5 plus 5 is 10. 7 plus 7 is 14. So 10 plus 14 equals 24. You must put the units, which are feet. So the perimeter of this rectangle is 24 feet. That means that is the distance from this corner all the way around this figure. Another example of perimeter is a different shape. Although that shape is not a rectangle, it is a rectilinear shape. It means it is made out of rectangles. I have all the sides labeled. That means all I do is look at the sides and add them all up. So let's look at that. I have 7 plus 4 plus 3, which is this. I go down here, plus 3 plus 4 plus 7. Now you can choose how you want to add those up. I'm going to move this figure so you can see it. 7 plus 4 is 11. 3 plus 3 is 6. And I'm going to check this again. 7 plus 4 is 11. And I can just add straight across. 11 plus 6 is 17. I add another 11. And my answer is 28 centimeters. So once again, perimeter is adding up all the sides, no matter what shape it is, as long as it is closed and there are no gaps or overlaps. So if we have different shapes, you need to know how many sides you will be adding up. If I have a triangle has 3 sides. Quadrilaterals have 4 sides. Those are your rectangles, squares, rhombuses, trapezoids. Those are all quadrilaterals. That means they have 4 sides. A pentagon has 5 sides. Hexagon has 6 sides. And an octagon has 8 sides. So students, you need to have this memorized. So that if I tell you that you have a hexagon and each side length is 5, I need to know that a hexagon has 6 sides. That means when I draw it, I should draw a 6-sided figure. Now that's not scale. But if I know that I just said that it has side length of 5, then I'm going to now assume I didn't say anything else, so all side lengths will be 5. I need to go back and check and make sure it is a 6-sided figure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to find the perimeter, I need to add up all the sides. That means I should be adding up 6 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Because there were no units on there, you would put 30 units. The next thing we're going to talk about is area. There are 2 ways to find the area of a problem. The first one is you count the number of square units. That's the easiest. A square unit would be something like this. This is a rectangle, and 1 square unit is how it is tiled. Or I can multiply length times width. So let's go over one of those problems. It would look something like this. Tejan wants to tile the floor of his bedroom using 1-foot tiles. How many square foot tiles will he need? So if this is what his bedroom looks like, it is 5 feet by 5 feet, I can do 2 things. I can either draw my tiles, and when I do that, I will draw 5 rows and 5 columns, and it will look something like this. That is tiling. For the definition of area, we went back and said to find it, you can count the number of square units. So all I have to do is count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So the area equals 25 feet squared, or square feet. Another way to solve that same problem is to know that the formula for area is length times width. The length of this object is 5 feet. The width is 5. And I know my multiplication facts, so 5 times 5 equals 25. And that will be square feet again. Another problem for area is if you have something that looks like this. I could ask several different questions with a figure that looks like this. The first question I could ask is, what is the area of the shaded part? That means the only thing I'm looking at is this shaded area. The question could sound like this. Free started painting her room. She painted the shaded area. She did not finish. But what area did she paint? So once again, I am only looking at the shaded area. I can go back and I see that it is already tiled. I can count every single one of these tiles. but that's going to take a long time. I need to go and look and say, well, length times width. In this case, it is 7. There's the length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Times 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know my multiplication facts, so 7 times 6 equals 42. And that will be inches squared, or square inches. So both ways work. You can either count the tiles or do length times width. Now looking at this figure, we can also ask a different question. Our class had a garden. Our garden was 7 inches by 6 inches, and yes, that's a very small garden. Another class came and put a garden beside us, as shown in the figure. Their width of the garden was 4 inches. How much area do the two gardens have combined? So now I'm no longer looking at just this shaded part. I'm looking at our garden plus the other classroom's garden. This equation is solved in two different ways. You can either take it and break it apart and look at just this rectangle right here and say, well, I know length times width is 7 times 6. So the area of this rectangle is 7 times 6. We've already solved that, so we know it's 42. So what's the area of this rectangle? Well, it's tiled, so I can go ahead and count it, or I can remember that we just said opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. That means I should go ahead and label this side of the rectangle as 7 inches. If this side is 7, this side is 7. So now I can do the formula for this rectangle, the unshaded part. And that would be 7 times 4. Because the question said, what is the area of the two gardens combined, I will be adding those equations. 7 times 4 is 28. So 42 plus 28, kids, you know I want you to bring it over here and make that a vertical problem. And your answer is 70. However, you need to have units on it. It will be 70 square inches, or inches squared. Now I can take that same problem and do something else with it. If I want to know how much they are combined, the area, I can also look at this figure and say, well, now I'm looking at the outside rectangle. I'm no longer looking at them as two different pieces. I know the length is 7. But what do I now know about the width? I know that from here to here is 6 inches. From here to here is 4 inches. So that means all the way across is 6 plus 4, or 10 inches. That means if I'm looking at the area of the entire mini garden, my formula would be 7, my equation would be 7 times 10. Kids, I know you know how to do 7 times 10, and that equals 70 inches squared, which is the exact same thing we got on the first problem. Another area problem is when it is no longer a rectangle. This is a rectilinear shape. This could be the shape of a pool. Could be the shape of a garden if we didn't put our gardens side by side. if we look at this, then we're going to look at it and try to figure out how can we separate this into two rectangles. What can we do that will make this easier to find the area? So we can take it and say, well, I can just make my own little rectangles. And I can draw a line right there. Here is one rectangle. And here is another rectangle. The area of this rectangle would be the length, which is 9 inches, times the width. Now there's where you have to be careful. You have to make sure that you're not using this 5. This 5 inches tells you that's the length from this corner to this one. But if you look up here, I'm only looking from here to here. And I have it labeled right there. Opposite sides are equal, so that means if I needed to, I could put 2 inches right here. So 9 times 2, which is 18 inches squared. Well, then I need to figure out the area of this rectangle. I see a 4 over here, which means that that's the same length. Our length is 4. What is the width? It's still not 5. It's labeled right here. 4 times 3. 4 times 3 equals 12 inches squared. But I'm not done. I want to know the area of the entire figure. That means I need to add the area of this rectangle with the area of this rectangle. So 18 plus 12 equals 30 inches squared. There is one more problem that we have gone over in class on finding area. This problem is if you have the perimeter and one side. So let's look at a type of problem. Pauline baked brownies in a rectangular pan. The perimeter of the pan was 26 inches. One side length was 5 inches long. What are the other side lengths? So I've drawn my picture. I read in there, it's rectangular. I have drawn a rectangle. I also read that one side length was 5. If this side is 5, the opposite side is 5. And I'm going to put up here that I know that the 26 is the perimeter. The perimeter equals 26. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what the kids have known. If you know the perimeter and one side, you add, subtract, and then divide. I'm going to draw my rectangle up here again. So I know that 2 of my 4 sides are 5 inches each. So I'm going to add those together to find out what part of my perimeter should be. That's 5 plus 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. Now, if I know that this side length and this side length is 10, and the distance all the way around the figure is 26, then I need to subtract. This is my total distance, and I know 10 inches of it. I need to figure out what's left. So 26 minus 10 equals 16. That 16 tells me that this side and this side add up together to equal 16. Let me repeat that. I know that opposite sides are equal on a rectangle. And I know that 16 is the total for these two sides together. I know what I have to do is divide them evenly. I have 2 sides left. They are equal sides. And I need to find out what they are. So I am dividing by 2. 16 divided by 2. If you don't know what that is, you draw your 2 and you put 16 in there. Kids, you know how we do it? We say, all right, well, I can put 5. That's 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 divided by 2 is 5, 6, 7, 8. Now what does that tell me? That tells me that one of these side lengths is 8. So I'm going to go back to my figure and label it. If I know that this is 8, I also know that this is 8. But that doesn't help me because my question was, what is the area? Before I can do that, I need to check and make sure that I solved this equation right. So I'm going to go back and just make sure that my perimeter is correct. If perimeter is the distance around the figure and I add up all the sides, I should add up 5 plus 8 plus 5 plus 8. I'm going to chunk these together because I know that 5 plus 5 is 10. I also know that 8 plus 8 is 16. So 10 plus 16 equals 26. Did that match what I was given? Yes. So I can move on. I'm going to redraw my rectangle. Five and 5 and label it again. And now I'm ready to find the area. Area is length times width. That means the area is 5 times 8. I know my multiplication facts. That means the area equals 40. I need to go back and see what was the label. It was inches, so inches squared. Now, parents and kids, these are the questions that we've been going over. These are the problems and the way to find area and perimeter. There are other sites that you can look at when you're at home. One of the best ones I've seen is LearnZillion.com. Parents, you will need to register. It is free, but there are many videos that explain each one of the Common Core math standards if you need any other questions or problems. So please let me know. I would love for you to email me if you have any questions about this, and let me know if you used it and if you found this was useful. Good luck studying.